From Hollywood, it's Paranormal Tonight. I'm Mark Summers, and now, here's your host, Dan Harary.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to From Hollywood, it's Paranormal Tonight. I'm Dan Harary, the host of this fakakta show. This is my third new show on the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance YouTube channel. I am the chairman and co-founder of the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance, along with my friend Stephen Bassett. We created the HDA 2 years ago. We have lots of wonderful members. We just hit 200, so we have over 200 members. And one of them is my guest today, and I will now read her little bio. So my guest today is Jessie Desmond, a resident of Fairbanks, Alaska, who published her most recent book entitled Saucers of the North, A History of UFOs in Alaskan Airspace in 2022. She is also currently writing some other books. Jessie's experience with UFOs stems back to being a field investigator and eventually the state director of MUFON for Alaska, 2012 to 2020. Jessie remains a MUFON member. She also previously had been a ghost investigator, and she ran a few Bigfoot expos up in Alaska, so we have lots to talk about. I love all those things. Jessie has a degree in 2D animation, a BA degree in history, a master's degree, and a graduate certificate in space operations. She is also an ASFA certified trainer for the Alaska State Firefighters Association. And I just was telling Jessie that my son, Jordan, moved to Alaska from Los Angeles in 2008. He's been living in Anchorage, my son, since 2008. And I've probably been to Alaska myself maybe 15 times. In early 2005, my son and I went up to Fairbanks, where Jessie is, to look at college there for him. He decided not to go there, but I remember freezing my ass off in Fairbanks. So I have been to where Jessie is. So if I don't screw this up horribly, let's bring in my guest for today, Jessie Desmond.
Hi.
There you are. I did it.
So can I make one real quick correction there?
Well, at the ASFA, that's wrong, right?
Yeah, it's the American Sports and Fitness Association.
Okay. Well, I like firefighters better.
I support them too.
Okay. All right. I knew I did that wrong, but I thought that was noble. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.
We've been having really good weather up here, so I wouldn't say spring is totally in the air, but breakup season. It's here.
Breakup season? What does that mean?
It means the ice is breaking up because it's warm.
Oh, well, I thought when people are dating and they break up with each other.
That might be happening too. But
probably happening.
No,
right?
When I say that, it's just it's a seasonal thing up here. That's what we call it. Ice is breaking up. That means the river is going to be dangerous and roads are going to be a little more clear.
That's definitely an Alaskan expression. Yeah, it's breakup season. And you're not talking about people dating. You're talking about ice.
Correct.
I got you. Okay. All right. So, Jessie, where are you from originally? What did your parents do? And what were some of your interests as a child?
I was born and raised here in Fairbanks. I actually kind of grew up out in North Pole, which is just like 10 miles outside of Fairbanks. And it's a Christmas themed town. But yeah, so like I was just born and raised here. I'm part Alaska Native. I'm part Koyukon Athabascan. And my dad is a mechanical contractor, and my mom has had a number of businesses over the years.
Okay. And what kind of things were you, other than making snowmen, what were some of your interests as a child?
God, I was kind of an odd child. I really got into comic books, specifically Batman. That was my dream job until I decided that I wanted to be a Ghostbuster. And then I decided that I wanted to be Fox Mulder. And of course, none of those things really exist, right? It doesn't help that I also wanted to be like a Star Trek member, but not the TV show, like an actual member of the Enterprise. So,
Well, so you have a very vivid imagination. You're
yeah.
incredibly creative. There's nothing wrong with all that stuff.
So,
Those are all good. Those are all good things.
I don't know. I just kind of like I grew up just getting out into the woods and hiking around, doing fishing and camping and Girl Scouts. Your typical kids stuff. But I wasn't really like a girly girl, so I was just kind of I lived kind of out in the sticks, so
you were
things had to be planned.
Jessie Mulder is what basically Jessie Mulder. You should be. They're redoing the X-Files. Did you know that? I mean, they're updating it.
Someone mentioned something about that to me, and I don't really trust it until it's like a little more like it's going to happen soon, like it's going to has a release date or something.
All right, I understand. What a great show! I've seen every episode probably 3 times, I think.
Yeah, I just kind of grew up with it. I was a little late in the game for finding it, but that's fine. Yeah, so I did a lot of reading, and Art Bell kind of came on, and it just seems like there was so much like paranormal stuff, and with in the 80s and early 90s and stuff with Saturday morning cartoons, there was always like ghosts and there was monsters and there's all kinds of things on there, and it just media really influenced me as a kid. I think in a positive way.
Okay. All right. So which came first, your interest in ghosts or your interest in UFOs?
Probably ghosts, because growing up, I was pretty sure that there was a shadow person in my closet.
All right.
That would stare at me.
Let's start with that. So yeah, I've heard that from numerous people. How old were you, and what did the shadow person look like, and what did he do with you?
It was one of those shadow people that they would refer to as Head and Shoulders.
Okay.
Not the Hat Man. So it was almost like an outline of like Head and Shoulders, and it would just watch me sleep, and I was terrified as a little kid. I think I was like 11 or 12 when I switched bedrooms, and that fear just went away. Like it was like almost instantaneous. Like I could leave the lights off, I could get up and move around at night and not have problems.
So he only lived in one of the rooms in your house?
It's really bizarre. But I'm not the only person who thought that they saw this thing. And like I went to college, came back, and I had to stay in that old room again, and it was there. It was still there.
Wow. Any idea if it was a relative or someone who had died there in the past?
It was a fairly new build house, so no one died there. And I have no idea who or what it was. I just know it was there. But we also had a ghost cat at the house.
Let's stick with the Head and Shoulders man. Okay. So when you say shadow, you didn't see any details in the face? It was just darkness?
It was just like a shadow that was standing in the middle of the room. Like I don't know how else to explain it. But I could move. I didn't want to move. I'd like tense up, and I would just like pretend I was asleep and kind of try and squint my eyes and keep an eye on this thing as I thought it was watching me. And yeah, my parents didn't really know what to do with that, because I I would usually end up screaming and, I don't know, like waking someone up to come turn on the light, which is 2 feet away from me.
I was going to say, did you scream for your parents? So if they turned on the light, this thing went away, right?
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't see it once the light was on.
Okay. Jen, did your parents ever see this thing?
Nope.
Just lucky you, huh?
Just me.
Wow. Okay. All right. So that was a childhood. Tell me about the ghost cat. Tell me about that one.
Actually, it was my sister who told me about it first, and her friends, sometimes we'd have like sleepovers, she'd have a sleepover or something, and she usually had a cat, but there was one point where we had no cats, and this thing would just like jump up and walk up on your chest a little bit and like lay down like a cat would if you're laying in bed and you go to pet it, and there would be nothing there, but you could feel it, and you could even see like indentations.
So you experienced this yourself?
Yeah, I experienced it like twice. My sister had more interaction with it.
If you pet it, did you feel fur?
No.
You didn't feel anything. Did you feel solidness of the cat?
I could feel like the weight of it. Like if there was feet, or if it laid down, you could feel like as if a body was there, but there was nothing there, and you couldn't touch it with your hand. It was bizarre.
Well, I don't think I've heard of a ghost cat before. I've seen some shows on TV that had ghost dogs, but ghost cats are probably a minority. That's pretty cool. All right, so how did you evolve from ghosts into UFOs? Did you have an experience as a child with UFOs?
It's just one of those things where you start. Daniel Cohen is an author that our school had a ton of Daniel Cohen books, and he wrote about ghosts, and he wrote about all kinds of monsters and UFOs and all kinds of stuff. And I kind of started like a paranormal club in 4th grade.
Wow.
Just with people. Cool. We'd go get books from the library and be like, "Oh, you guys should read this."
That's so cool. Okay. That's great.
Yeah. It was just kind of like, to us, it was all there. It was all in the same paranormal group.
But so have you personally experienced any UFOs in your life?
Yeah, I want to say maybe 12 to 15 times, but I'm not going to... Probably more than that if you want to include like some of the real high atmosphere stuff that I've seen, because there's a lot of those.
Well, you probably see all kinds of lights, but have you ever seen something like you're like, oh my God, that's so remarkably not human? I mean, you've done that probably.
Yeah. There's been a couple times.
Tell me about some of the more dramatic UFOs you've seen.
Okay, so living out in the sticks, it, like, if I wanted to ride my bike into North Pole, like to go rent a movie, or when movie rental places was a thing, or something like that, it was 6 miles one way on a bicycle.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
And it was even further if I wanted to go into Fairbanks, and that was more dangerous because there wasn't a bike trail. Right. So it was like, it was one of the summers, I think it was the summer right after 9th grade. It was either right before or right after 9th grade. And, I wasn't able to drive at that point. I was kind of stuck home. It was middle of summer, and I decided I was going to watch a movie, right? So I went to close the curtains because I didn't want the sunlight to come in and glare on the TV. And I heard something, and if in that neighborhood, if you heard like a siren, you kind of like poked your head out to see what was going on, because people might need help, right? And And so I was waiting for like whatever this loud noise was to go by, and it just like it was so fast. It was just so fast going down the road, and the only thing between me and like the road were like a couple of trees. Like there's a little bit of a tree line to block the view of the yard, right? But you could totally see through them. And it was like a really tall, very narrow, like diamond shaped kind of a thing, and it's like it was spinning.
Okay.
And it was just moving real fast down the road, and I don't know why it'd be going down our road, except there used to be an old military road out to an old Nike site that they had blocked off at the off the extension of our road, and I don't know if it had something to do with that. So
was it how far up from the road was it? A couple of feet?
The bottom of it looked like it was maybe 2 or 3 feet off the road.
So maybe it went by just for you. Maybe it was something they wanted you to see it.
I don't know, but I was like, oh my God, that's like a UFO. And I bolted out of the house, and I mean, I didn't close the door or anything. I just ran out to the main road, and I later timed it and trying to get that adrenaline up or whatever and recreate it. And I timed it at like 27 seconds. I remember this because I drew a picture of it, I wrote it all down, and I sent that report to Art Bell because I didn't know what else to do.
That was your first UFO report, I guess, that you took.
I think it was. Okay. And then I went out to the main road, and it was just empty. There's nothing. And the next road down from ours was a quarter mile down the road, and if it had turned, it would have kicked up dirt because it was going so fast. It would have had to slow down.
No, you said it was summer. There was no snow at the time?
There's no snow.
Okay.
In Alaska, when it's summer, it is a dry summer. We have a lot of forest fires up here and stuff. Okay. But yeah, it was like it was a real sunny, bright day, and it was just there's no people out. There was no traffic. I don't even recall any like nature sounds when I ran out to the main road.
What kind of sound was it? Was it like a whoo, like the science fiction movies?
Or? No, actually, I thought it was like an ambulance or a fire truck or something.
Huh.
Yeah, it was some kind of sirens type sound like that. It was a little off, but I thought maybe it was just me.
Did Art Bell write back to you?
I sent it to him in an email, and then because I had a photo, and then or a picture that I drew, and whatever. So I called in, and I was put on hold, and it seems like every time I tried to talk to Art Bell, I would get through, be put on hold for like the commercial to end or whatever, right, and my call would get dropped.
Right, like when he picked up, hello, Jessie in Fairbanks, and it goes click, right?
I only talked to him one time. I was so thrilled. It was right before he died.
At least you got him once. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So how about after that? That was a profound one. You've had others, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So I had some friends who lived in a nearby town. We all went to the same school because that's just how it is. But his house was like 30 miles away.
Wow.
That sounds like a lot, but it's
that's close. That's
kind
close.
of a rural area.
That's close for you. That's like that's your next door neighbor, right?
Yeah. And it was, I don't know. Sometimes I just go out there and hang out or whatever. And there were 2 different times, my mom would come pick me up, and I could look out the window because I was a passenger, and I twice I saw these black triangles, but not like the TR3B black triangles. These were more elongated triangle, like a Death Star, like a not a Death Star, a Star Destroyer from Star Wars, like that elongated triangle kind of shape.
You saw two together?
Not together, just two separate occasions.
The same kind of craft.
Yeah, and it was like I only noticed it. I only saw them when it was absolutely clear out in the middle of winter. So it was this blackout. Because in the summertime, we have like 24 hours of light, pretty much.
I've been there. I know. Right, I know.
So I only noticed it because it would move past some of the stars, and it would block it out.
Wow.
And the first time I saw it, there was some real high altitude, wispy kind of clouds, and it moved just in the right direction where it kind of blocked a little bit of that out, and I was like, what is that? And I don't know what it was, but it was moving real slow. There were no lights on it. And once I noticed it, I saw the outline of it being a triangle, and otherwise I wouldn't have even known it was there.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So how did you become involved with Alaska MUFON?
Well, listening to Art Bell, I knew about MUFON, and having watched a lot of X-Files, I also knew of MUFON from that show, and I think there was some MUFON mentions on like sightings and unsolved mysteries and stuff, and I was just like, well, maybe I'll see what that has to offer. Okay. And so that I looked into that, and I decided that I would do the field investigator training, and from there it just became an assistant state director, and then I became the state director. And
how old were you when you first became a field investigator? Were you a teenager?
No, I was in my early 20s.
Okay.
Yeah, early 20s.
And then you sort of worked your way up, and so you were the state director for all of Alaska.
Yeah, for a lot of that, I was the only field investigator / official investigator person at all for the state.
Wow.
And I believe right now, I'm pretty sure that they don't have anyone right now. I think it's just one guy managing like a couple different states.
That's surprising, because I know there's a lot of UFO sightings historically in Alaska. I'm surprised.
Well, a lot of people in Alaska, they don't really understand what MUFON is, and that's what I found out, and they don't trust it because they don't understand it. And because at one point I was a state section director, which is more like public relations, getting more people involved. And people thought it was a government entity. They had a lot of preconceived notions about it.
Okay. All right. So tell us about your book. And this is a piece of paper. I don't have your book.
I have my book.
There you go. Okay. So hold that up. Keep that up there. There you go. Saucers of the North, A History of UFOs in Alaskan Airspace. That came out about 3 years ago. And it's a great cover. Tell us how long it took you to research that book, and what's in the book.
This ended up being my COVID project.
Okay, I know those. I wrote 5 books during COVID. I know what you're talking about.
So I actually, what really started it, should hold up this book real quick. The UFO Cover-Up by Lawrence Fawcett and Barry L. Greenwood.
Nice. I never saw that one. Okay.
This is from
that inspired you? That book inspired you?
Well, it gave me a question to answer.
Okay.
On page 205, it says Project Pinball attempt in Alaska to track UFOs on radar. That's it. It is one sentence.
Okay.
and there's no additional information on it. And so I decided I wanted to find out what that was. So I started digging around, and that took a couple of years of digging around to get some sort of lead. And I had a couple FOIA requests. And okay, so when they sent back files for the FOIA requests, it was like 15,000 pages that had been scanned in as JPEGs, not as text files. They couldn't search it with a regular search. So I printed everything out, and then I just went page by page.
Wait. They sent you 15,000 JPEGs?
Yeah.
And you printed out one at a time?
Well, it was all compressed into PDFs, but they had been scanned in as JPEGs.
Okay, I got it. PDFs. Okay, so you printed that out and studied it for a while.
Yep, and
then what happened?
I found out about our secret Project Pinball program that took place in Alaska.
From when to when?
Like the origins of it started with General, is it Twining?
Twining. Nathan
okay.
Twining. Yeah.
When he became in charge of the Department of the Interior for Alaska, I believe that was in 49 and 50 or something like that.
Okay.
And he decided that, yes, Alaska was a strategic area. We needed to do more, and we needed to have radar sites installed, right? So then we have Alaska. If for those who don't know, Alaska was one of the only territories that was really invaded during World War II.
By?
The Japanese.
Japanese invaded Alaska in World War II?
Yeah. They invaded the Aleutian Islands.
Okay, the Aleutian. Okay.
So, and that is the extremely long chain of islands that extend from Western Alaska.
Right. Okay.
And it's a big fishing area. If you've ever seen Deadliest Catch, that's kind of their area of operations. Okay. So the waters are just tumultuous, right? So we ended up we have like the dew line that went across like the top of Alaska into Canada. And we have like the White Alice communication system, or WACS. And that's a bunch of different sites. Huh?
Yeah, what is that?
It's an early warning communication system, basically. They're big radar stations, and all of them are just to pick up whatever's in the sky, whether it's a missile or aircraft or whatever. We have BMUs, which is the ballistic missile early warning system, and so that station was actually at Clear Air Force Station, which is now Clear Space Force Base, which isn't too far away from here.
How long did so pinball was to detect UFO sightings via radar for the first time across Alaska, or just the northern border of Alaska?
Across the entire state. And we had a ton of Air Force stations here at the time. Let me grab some water here.
Sure.
Sorry, I'm not used to talking a whole bunch. So when I get going, I really get going.
Yeah, no problem. That's why we're here. So yeah, tell me. So how long did pinball last? Is it still going on now?
If it is, then it got renamed and sent somewhere else, essentially. So pinball got shut down by 59.
Okay, so it sounds like about 10 years then.
Yeah, but they had to build the radar sites. So they had plans. They had to come up with plans for part of those years.
Okay.
And then it was run through the AISS, which is the Air Intelligence Service Squadron. That's the 5,004th. And if you're familiar with the 4602, that is the supposed Men in Black.
Okay, really? Okay.
Yeah, that's the group that's associated with that.
Have you ever studied Project Blue Book, Grudge, or Sign to see if there were Alaska sightings in those 3 books?
I have them in my book. Yeah.
Okay, so there were.
Yeah. There was an Aleutian UFO flap in the 40s, and in the later 40s, and so I think that kind of instigated things. But there was also a lot of other sightings that happened. We have some pre 47 sightings. The earliest sighting that I was able to track down in written form, like in the newspaper and stuff, came from 1909, and it's out of Skagway. And that was mysterious lights on the side of a mountain, like on December 31st.
Oh, New Year's Eve, yeah.
So, or December 30, December 31st, something like that. It's also in the book. I actually clipped like the old newspaper clipping and put a picture of that in the book.
Cool. So your book is a series of reports of Alaska sightings. Is that what the book is?
Yeah, it goes in and it includes some history so people have an idea of what was going on at that point in the state and in the world scheme of things. I also get into a little bit of like Alaska Native lore.
Okay.
Because there's some weird stories that read as UFO related.
I could imagine. Did you interview many people, living people, face to face or over Zoom for the book?
I talked to some people, and a lot of these came directly out of old newspapers. Some of them came from New Fork, and I talked to John from New Fork, who actually he used to live near where I grew up, so that's kind of cool.
And you got the FOIA information too.
I got the FOIA information. Some of it came from MUFON, and since some of it came from MUFON, some of the things I was the person who actually took the case,
Right,
and then
good point. Right.
I actually had to hold off on publishing my book because, like, I was in the final editing stages, and we had a cattle mutilation down in Delta Junction.
Okay, wow. So, did you physically go see that?
Yeah, I left work early when I found out.
And did you take photos of that cattle mutilation? Is it in your book?
They had already taken care of the cattle, but I went to the site where the cows had been. It was 3 cows over a course of 2 weeks. And for anyone who wants to see a picture, there is a picture in the book that had been posted to social media.
Okay.
And that's how I found out about it. And you can see like an ear's been removed and there's no blood.
Right.
The cow itself was like a tan color and there's no blood on the cow. And like an eyeball's been removed and it looks blackened like it's been burned. It was very weird. And so the police wouldn't get back to me and I just couldn't get in touch with anyone. No one wanted to talk to me about it.
The owners of the cattle didn't talk to you?
Nope, they kind of wanted to not make a huge deal about it.
Had they seen lights in the sky or?
They didn't. They said that they had not. They just didn't want to be associated with that. Okay. That with that being UFOs.
So that was the most current case in your book. It sounds like.
Yeah. That pushed back publishing.
And where did you find your publisher? How did you get published?
I use Kindle Direct Publishing. Okay. I really hate going back and forth with trying to find a publisher.
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it. I know.
So I was like, I can just do this myself.
Okay, and it's on Amazon, obviously.
Yeah, it's on Amazon.
Have you done? Has it sold? Have you done some sales on this? Have you done well?
It's done so. Every once in a while I get a little check or whatever, and it's not making me like a bunch. I'm not living off of this book for sure.
No, I know.
But maybe sales will pick up a little bit more. It's going to be listed in Adventures Unlimited. So that's David Hatcher Childress's company, his bookstore.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I met him.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I'd love, after we hang up, I'll email you my address if you could send me a copy. I'd love to read it.
Yeah, I could do that.
And I'll send you one of my dopey books in exchange. Okay, so let's jump over to Bigfoot, because I think that's fascinating. You organized a couple of Bigfoot expos recently.
We had 2.
Tell me about Bigfoot. Have you ever seen Bigfoot, and what got you involved with Bigfoot?
I have never seen Bigfoot, and I really want to, but I'm also kind of scared of the idea of running into Bigfoot at the same time. But I think I'm more excited than I am scared. So, actually, the whole expo thing is kind of started with just asking on Facebook if anyone would be interested in that, and I thought I was going to have like 0 response or whatever, and I ended up getting a handful of people going, "Hey, that's really cool, I can help." And I'm used to having to do everything myself, so I was like, okay, and it became a statewide effort, which sounds weird, but there was me and there was one other person here locally. Her name's Heidi Worley. And then our friend Norm out of Healy, which is it's right outside of Denali National Park. And let's see here. Michael Thompson is out of Tok. And Beans Baxter is out of Homer, which is down off the very tip of the Kenai Peninsula. So,
okay, so all you guys put your heads together to create, is it called the Boreal Bigfoot Expo? Is that?
Yeah, Boreal Bigfoot Expo. Because the forest system up here is the Boreal Forest.
Boreal, okay.
Yeah.
So you created this event for the first time in 2021, is that right?
Yeah, and the first one, we only had local guest speakers. We had 3 guest speakers. We had some vendors. We had a bunch of informational kind of things. And it went over really well. And then the second one, we decided to bring in some out-of-state big name kind of people. So we brought in Dr. Jeff Meldrum. And let's see here. We had... I'm forgetting names now, and that's embarrassing. We had John Dover, and Rob Roy Menzies was there. He actually runs the Bigfoot Art Gallery out of Palmer.
I don't know the Bigfoot community like I know the UFO community. Have you ever read David Childress's UFO book? I'm sorry, his Bigfoot book? It's amazing, incredible photos.
I don't know if I've read that one. I have a couple of his other books.
Yeah, it's incredible. The photos are just remarkable.
Yeah,
I think that's the best Bigfoot book that exists, but I haven't really studied it like you have. So are you going to do some more in the future, these events?
We thought about it, but let's see here. Norm moved out of state for right now, and I think Heidi just moved down to Anchorage, and
so it's going to fall. It'll fall to you if you're going to do it. You'd have to do it by yourself.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard with people being remote, and then it's hard. I don't know. It's just there's a lot of effort, but we were told that it was like really well organized. So there is that.
No, that's cool. You're very entrepreneurial. That's very cool. All right, so tell me about your love for Dracula. How did that happen, and when did that start? As a child?
I think so. You know, I had a copy of the Bela Lugosi movie on VHS growing up, and I think I've seen almost every instance of Dracula that I could think of, even some of the absolutely terrible stuff that's out there. And I like compulsively buy the novel, which sounds weird, but I do. And then with my history degree, my thesis was actually on Vlad Dracula, which is the real person from the 15th century. And
was that his name? Vlad Dracula was his name?
He was Vlad the Third Dracula.
Dracula was his last name.
Not his last name. It was more like an affiliation. It referenced the House of the Dragon, which is a sect. It's like a religious group based off the St. George versus the Dragon sort of thing. Was
Vlad from Transylvania?
He was from Wallachia, which is kind of Transylvania. Okay. I think the section that he's actually from became incorporated into what would be Transylvania.
No, okay. I told you I'm friends with Lynn Lugosi. I'm friends with her. Her grandfather was Bela Lugosi. Bela Lugosi.
That's
pretty, and I met Bela Lugosi Jr. a few years ago. I do PR in Hollywood, and about 6 years ago, I did PR for a play in LA called Blood Rock the Musical. It's about singing vampires. And for the premiere of the event, I invited Bela Lugosi Jr. and his daughter to come and take pictures. So I met Dracula's son and Dracula's granddaughter. They're friends of mine. That was pretty cool.
That's awesome, actually.
Did you ever see, I'm sure you've seen this one, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein? You've seen that? And then they meet Dracula and the Wolfman. Is that not the greatest movie of all time?
That is actually a really good movie.
It's a great movie.
It's some people they go, oh, it's Abbott and Costello. It's just going to be a lot of like slapstick kind of stuff, but it's really a good movie.
It's super funny, and it's also very scary.
Yeah.
When Dracula, when he's opening the lid and Costello goes, Chad. I love that movie. Okay, so I'm involved with the disclosure movement in LA, and my partner Steve Bassett is in Washington. I'm sure you've been following the congressional hearings probably the last few years.
I have been following the congressional hearings, and like I even wrote about one of them.
David Grush or Lou Elizondo, the last two. What are your thoughts about the disclosure movement?
I feel like we're brushing up against it, but we're not getting as far as we would like to get.
Okay.
I mean, I don't really have any more insight than that. I know that there was an early congressional hearing about UFOs, and they invited a former Alaska state senator. Senator, or was it governor? I don't know off the top of my head. Okay. And I'd have to look it up. It's in my book. And like that was like one of the first kind of disclosure hearings.
Well, there have been the last 3 years in a row. They haven't done one this year yet, but there is one coming. I believe it's going to be the military guys who worked at nuclear facilities, who, if you know the name Robert Salas, Salas, he's a friend of mine. I interviewed him a few weeks ago. He worked at Malmstrom Air Force Base in, I think it was the late 60s, and a big orange UFO turned off 10 nuclear missiles for about a day, turned them off. So the people that I know in Washington, Steve Bassett and Danny Sheehan, they're trying to get the nuclear witnesses, they're called, to testify before Congress sometime soon. But yeah, I like what you said. We're brushed up against it. We're so close. It couldn't really be closer without going over to President Trump going on TV and saying, yeah, okay, it's time. Extraterrestrials are real. Many UFOs in the sky are extraterrestrial craft. We've known about this a very long time, national security. But now we felt the time was to share this with you because they're becoming more and more prominent. You know, the drone flap over the East Coast a few months ago. According to Steve Bassett, it was an extraterrestrial flap. And then our U.S. military sent up a bunch of drones up there to deflect. So people would see drones. Oh, look, drones. But in reality, they were there to deflect from the extraterrestrial craft. So, yeah, what you said, we're brushed up against it. We're about as close as you could get. David Grush testified before Congress and said extraterrestrial life is real. We have recovered UFO technology. We have aliens living and dead. And it wasn't the front page of the every paper in the world the next day. It wasn't even, I think it was on page 20 in the LA Times. It's just incredible.
I mean, like, denial's always been number one. I mean, UFOs literally flew over the White House in the 50s.
Yeah, 52, yeah.
It was on the news. There's footage of it. And they were just like, oh, it was weather inversion.
It's incredible.
You know, shrug, that's it. Weather inversion.
Well, I'm friends with Paul Hynek. His father was Dr. J. Allen Hynek, right. And Dr. Hynek got in trouble in the 60s in Michigan. He said it was swamp gas. And he regretted that later in his life because he knew it wasn't. And Gerald Ford was a representative in Congress at the time, and he wrote a letter. He did something, a hearing. He said, this was not swamp gas. Gerald Ford, this wasn't swamp gas. Yeah, they've been just obfuscating and deflecting the reality of this since the Roswell crash, you know. And like you said, that was in 47. There have been many events before 47. There was the Battle of Los Angeles in 1942.
Right.
The Foo Fighters over Europe and the Pacific Theater. The Foo Fighters were 42 to 44.
We also had some Foo Fighter sightings up here.
You mentioned 1909. There's the 1898 in Aurora, Texas, when the little alien crashed into a windmill. 1933.
To excavate
1933, a UFO landed. It crashed in Italy, and Mussolini's people recovered it and gave it to Hitler. I have a friend who's creating a documentary about that one.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, can't wait to see that. This is just this phenomenon. It's been around forever and ever and ever. And so many people, there's no aliens, there's no UFOs. It's all make-believe. It's all, Hollywood science fiction. And once disclosure, if and when it does happen, and a president or a pope or a king goes on TV and says, yeah, this is all real. People go, what? What do you mean? What?
Well, I was going back, like, because I like to look at historical things. I was looking at that German wood cutting of the UFO stuff that was printed into a pamphlet from the 1600s. And, I was just glancing at it, and I was just looking at the art, and I was like, there's like smoke coming up from this town here. And does that mean that there were crashes? And I'm surprised that no one has really looked or tried to look into that, because you can see specific points in the town, so you can get a direction of the perspective, like, and where these crashes might have taken place. So I wonder if there's like strange metal or something.
That's a good theory.
Yeah,
I like that. That's pretty cool. About the windmill in Aurora, and they dumped all kinds of metal in the water tank on the property, and then this guy Proctor, who owned it, his hands got all gnarled and messed up from the water, and there's just so much. There's so much. People like you and I have studied this, and I've seen 4 UFOs with my own eyes over the course from the age of 13 till last year was my fourth one. And if you see this stuff and study it and read about it and watch documentaries, you go to Contact in the Desert. I'm the publicist for that. This will be my third year in a row. We have the world's leading UFO experts. Dozens of them are going to be at Contact in the Desert this year. Have you ever been to Contact?
I have not. Usually a lot of stuff kind of comes up that I want to go to where it just doesn't work out with work, or someone else at work is traveling at that point, so I have to be here.
I got you.
I blame my sister.
You should try to go at some point. It's the tail end of May, the very start of June. It's May 29th through June 2nd, near Palm Springs. Have you ever been to? Have you ever been out here to California? Have you been to California?
It's been a long time since I've been to California. But
have you been to the lower 48? My son calls it the lower 48. I went to art school in New
Jersey. So.
Oh yeah? Oh right. Okay. What part of New Jersey?
Kind of the northwestern parts, because we weren't too far away from Pennsylvania, but it would take like an hour to drive into New York, like the city.
Okay. All right. So I grew up in Asbury Park. It's an hour south of Manhattan.
Okay.
It's on the Jersey Shore.
Yeah, we weren't next to any shore.
That's where I'm from. So you're a member of my group, the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance.
Yes, I am.
And as you know, the premise was when I met Steve Bassett exactly 2 years ago. He's a disclosure guy. I'm a Hollywood guy. And he said to me, what can we do together? I came up with this idea to unite UAP, UFO researchers and experts and authors and filmmakers and documentary people with Hollywood writers, producers, directors. And we have about 200 members now, HollywoodDisclosureAlliance.org. If anyone's listening out there, HollywoodDisclosureAlliance.org. And it's been a very interesting couple of years with that. What do you think about how Hollywood what can Hollywood do better, do you think, Jessie, to make the disclosure movement move forward?
Well, I know you said earlier opinion, something obviously about like X-Files coming back out. I don't know if X-Files is really the route to go, but they could come up with like another really awesome show. I mean, they have such good shows coming out now, like Severance and stuff. Like if they came up with some sort of show that addressed these issues in a way that everyday people could understand, because I think that's part of the issue is, it used to be you could watch all these shows like Sightings and stuff on TV, and now people don't just sit down and watch TV channels. It's all streaming. So if you have like a really good quality show that's going to capture people's attention, you can get concepts across. I used to read X-Men all the time, and they were always talking about like accepting people because they're different. You know what I mean? And so there's like a whole bunch of people who understood that because they got it through the comics, and they're able to touch on different issues through the genre of comic books. And I think Hollywood could really do the same sort of thing with TV shows. They can really make a point. They just have to have really smart writers, and they have to have really good production.
Okay. I absolutely agree with you. I'm involved with a show called Shadow State that we're pitching to Hollywood now. It's essentially about this guy who works for the CIA, and he discovers the UFO program that's existed since the 40s to obfuscate and deflect reality. And he's torn between, because he wants to tell the world the reality, but he doesn't want to go to jail or get killed, or So I'm involved with some people who wrote we have a whole first season ready to go. We're pitching it to Hollywood.
That's pretty cool.
And hopefully that would be a good kind of show. We have about a minute left. What are you working on now, and how can people contact you?
Right now I have a project in the works about the concept of like time travel and different dimensions and that sort of thing. And it's still kind of in the early stages, I think. And then the other book that I've been working on for a long time it's called Finding Count Saint Germain, and it's about the immortal, supposed immortal, Count Saint Germain, who is a real person. He was a French diplomat at one point. He's an alchemist. He invented a number of things. Just an amazing person.
Very cool. Good luck with everything. How can people contact you?
I'm on various social media like Facebook and Instagram, not Twitter.
Okay, yeah, I know. Jessie Desmond, Desmond, right?
Yes. And then, of course, I have my website, which is jessiedesmond.com.
jessiedesmond.com. Thank you very much for doing this dopey show of mine. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Sure. Just stay there because I have to make sure everything uploads. Thank you, everyone. Next week, I have a Raelian rabbi. Believe it or not. I'm reading about Rael. That's a fascinating subject. Thank you for watching. Dan Harary from Hollywood. It's Paranormal Tonight. I'll see you next week. Thank you, Jessie.
Thanks.